prop it up on my mantelpiece. Don't put it in the closet. Nobody can see it. You got to put it up so everybody can see what great work you're doing. And I'm just going back and forth. Nothing great happening. There's no seagulls up there. There's nothing really happening. It's just a big blue sky. Okay, I can get just a tad darker up near the top. Think of it like you're going into outer space and it's getting darker up there. That's how I like to think of it. So I'll pull it a little closer to you. You can see my sky. I get to see some of your faces. You're all busy working. At the end, you can share with me some of your masterpieces if you so choose. Some of you email me afterwards and have been sending me your beautiful masterpieces. So yes, this place is dear to me. I met my husband there. So I have lots of pictures of these beaches. Okay. So I've got a nice big sky on there. Easy peasy, right? No problem. No problem at all. Pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to work on our beach. What do we want to do for the beach? Well, the beach just has a slightly different blue haze to it, or a blue, almost a turquoise, a little teal. And water is not a color, right? It's not a color at all. Like I have my drinking glass right here, and my drinking glass is just clear. I mean, it's not colored water. So water is reflecting what's in the sky and what's going on below the water surface. So if you're doing like I don't know, what do you want to call it, like a lake with a muddy bottom, and then there's I don't know, riverbeds, that might just have a rocky rocks underneath, and so you can't. I'm hearing that some people can't see me. Can everybody see me? So I'm hoping so. Just let Rosie know. Put it in the chat if you cannot see me and if I need to move. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to now go on to this beautiful teal ocean, and I'm going to now take my palette that I had for the sky, and all I need to do to make a little teal is, guess what? I'm just going to take a little bit of that yellow, very, very, very little bit of yellow, and stick it into my beautiful sky color to make watercolor. Not watercolor like watercolors, but colors of the water. Yay! So excited about that. And you'll know right away when you put that on if you need to pop it up a little bit more with some more blue. So I'm going to now put this teal color. It's a light teal, almost like a robin's egg color. I mean, if you've ever been to the islands there, it's built on a coral reef, and so the water is crystal clear with white sandy beaches. So there's no mud or rocks underneath, and it has the beautiful skies above. So it looks very clean and crystal clear. I know I sound like a commercial now for this place, but it is really pretty. If your hog's hair brush is getting a little dry, I'm going to dip it into the water a little bit and activate it. This is acrylic paint, and it loves water. Okay, and I'm going to decide also while I'm painting the water, how far does my water want to go down? So do I want to say this much for beach? Like, you decide how much water and how much beach. I'm going to... I think I'm going to do this. This will be my... So I've got about, I'd say a quarter quarter area of beach, a quarter area of water, and a half of sky. So that's how I split mine up. Yes. Just let Miss Rosie know if you can't see me, if something's going on that or you can't hear me. Because I used up all my white, so I just squirt a little bit more on there. It's going to be a little bit lighter teal near the beach edge, you know, as that water is lapping up onto the beach. So you could make this a lot lighter, and then I'll come back in and add some deeper blues in the middle of the ocean. As soon as I get enough of the shoreline drawn in, I'm just going to dip it in a little bit of water. I don't want to have a whole lot of water. It's going to drip everywhere. This should be the relaxing part. You could have some music on. You could be listening to Jimmy Buffett, or you could be listening to just some, you know, like the sounds of the waves. I know, this is the kind of painting where you do want to just sit back and have your margarita, right? A bunch of us are going to be ready to go to the beach when we get out of our quarantine situations. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling like that's just so cool and so beautiful, like almost like a glass ocean. And it was just by yellow, but just a tiny bit at a time. Now I want to put in a few dark blue areas, almost like the undertow or a big wave that's kind of rolling in. So I'm just going to take the edge of my brush with very little paint, just blue, and put a little bit of that in. Paint nights in June, as well as the 12:30 Wednesday well checks, and 2 more pajama and art. So stay tuned for those dates. If you send in your registration through the City of Goodyear, that's how you get the Zoom link, and that's how you get to share and chat with me. Otherwise, you just have to watch it on YouTube, but I can't see you. You can't like type me a note and say, "Hey, why is everything I'm making brown?" Okay, I'm getting that nice sea foamy green. Literally, that's what it looks like. In this one, I have a lot more yellow. And, you know, like right along the horizon line, I put a little bit more yellow. So, no, that's all good. Okay, now I'm going to work on the beach part. Do you see how we're just moving down the canvas? I'm going to go back later up here and work on clouds while this is drying. So that's, with acrylics, you just want to move around the canvas. You don't want to stay in one spot, and then you're just rubbing the paint off. With oil paints, I mean, it takes 6 months for it to cure. So you're always moving and working it. It's a dough, and I've got white. Remember I told you we don't have brown unless you went and bought a tube of brown. And that's fine. You could use brown right out of the can. But I wanted you to know how to do it, because this is part of, while we are having fun and just enjoying our time with our family, throwing some paint on a canvas, we can also use our brain and learn a few tricks, just a few. Otherwise, we'll just lose it, right? You just need to say, hey, I know how to do this now. I don't have to go buy brown. Okay, so brown is all the primary colors. My skin tone is brown. It's made of all of the primary colors. My blue and red arteries and my white, all of this is together, and then it's just how dark your pigment is by how much white is added to it. So we're going to use all of the primary colors. I'm going to get another plate here so I can make brown on this one. I'm going to make a big brown mess. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a little blue and stick it on the plate. I'm going to pick up a little bit of red and stick it on the plate. If I just mix those together, I get purple. But I want to add some yellow. And you'll notice if it's looking like too green, then you probably need to go back and add another color. Or more of a color, like you don't have equal parts or you have more of one than the other. Until you get kind of a nice brown. Doesn't take long to figure out how to make brown. Okay, so, but that's too dark, right? I don't want that particular brown as my beach. Then I start adding white to it. Oh boy. Okay, now I'm getting some nice, beautiful, beachy color. Yes? Can you see it up close? Cool. Everybody's painting away.
Deborah, we have a question here.
Yes.
From Linda. She bought a watercolor paints on Amazon. She has no white, but she does have brown. What should she do for the beach?
Okay, so good question. If you're working in watercolors, what you need to do is just use the brown out of the pan and then add a little bit of yellow. What's nice about watercolors, if it came with a little tray like this, you can mix it right here on the little palette. So take a little bit of your brown and put it here and some yellow, because yeah, you're right, it doesn't come with white. White's an opaque titanium element. You can't make white. So you either have to come back later and paint your clouds in with white. So you're going to be making your clouds, maybe your clouds are more, you would have had to just block out the clouds. You won't be able to come back and put white in until you use some acrylic paint, like watered down acrylic paint. Yes, but it's okay. You can still do this project. All right, I'm now adding a little bit of yellow to my beachy color. I hope that answered your question, my dear. You have the perfect palette then if you've got your watercolors all ready to chime in for the next two classes on next Wednesday and Saturday. So I've got a nice little beach color by adding just a little more yellow to my tinted brown. And now I'm going to put that there. I'm going to make it a little more white. A little more yellowy. I told you it was a white sandy beach. But if you're in Texas, it's a brown beach. Depends on where you are. Yeah. Now, the line does not have to be straight. You could make your beach line a little rocky, wavy. Doesn't have to be straight. If you do have any questions like the last one, please feel free to ask. That's what's nice about this platform with Zoom. You can interface with me. Rosie's able to help me by being moderator and fielding the calls. Otherwise, I'd have paint all over my computer by trying to answer you guys or listen or read your comments. Okay, so I now have covered the whole canvas from top to bottom, and I do not feel intimidated anymore. There's nothing like a blank canvas. I don't like it. It's like just looking at a plate with no food on it. It's just, yeah, there's nothing exciting about it. Now I can feel some potential happening here. So I told you we were going to now move back up to the top of the table. And top of the canvas, and we're going to put those clouds in. I'm going to switch to that synthetic brush I talked about earlier. And this one is a lot softer, feels like I could brush my face with it. And it's going to make some nice little fluffy clouds up there. If you still want to use your bristle hog's hair brush, that's fine too. Then you'll just have clouds that are just maybe they're crazy and looking like they're breaking out of the pack. They might just look a lot different. That's okay. If your white is contaminated, meaning it's got a lot of other colors into it, go ahead and pour yourself a little bit more white. I'm going to try to work with what I have here, and I might have to put a little more white on it. So what about clouds? Clouds are really fun, and I'm going to pick up this little one here to get it close to you. So I have some clouds that are off the page, right? Because I don't want to just put 1, 2, and not think that the sky is expansive. It's really big, so I want to have clouds everywhere. I love that I can engage the edges of this canvas. And I also like to think of things as like movement. So I'm moving from this patch to this patch to this one to this cloud. I added a few more things back here after I added the tree on because I felt like it still needed a little bit more movement and direction. So you can always come back and add more to your sky. All right, here we go. Let's do those clouds. Watercolor persons, I would say just wait till it all dries, and maybe you could get yourself a little watered down acrylic and then add those clouds in there. Okay, so I'm going to make a patch here. Do you see how I'm just scumbling it on? I can still see a little bit of the blue sky behind it, but I'm just barely touching the canvas and making these big fluffy clouds. The value is very close when I squint from this cloud to this one, but it's still going to be effective. So even if you think it doesn't show up at this point, it will. It'll be just more subtle. It'll still show up. So don't just make a big blob of a white cloud. Really kind of scumble it on there. Make it kind of wispy. I'm going back and forth. You could blob on it like this too. You could pounce on it to get some of those more wispier lines. Remember I said I like to engage edges, so I'm going to put one coming in from the corner. Oh, I like how that one's kind of dipping down. I love doing skies. They're really fun. I think one of our June paint nights should be another landscape. Really fun to do. My friends in Virginia are getting to see all those beautiful cherry blossoms, so I have a picture of some of those up here. Maybe that would be fun. You'll have to let me know what you would like to paint. Okay, so I'm going to put in another line of clouds right in here. Maybe you have little places where you skipped putting paint the first time. Hey, it's a perfect place for you to put a cloud because that little spot needs to have some paint on it. You don't want to leave any spots without any clothes on. So put some clouds right there. Okay, so I have this beautiful sky. Now remember I talked about the horizon line? To me, this is a little still too dark against my beautiful crystal blue water. So I'm going to lighten my horizon line with just the white now. With my synthetic brush. Synthetic meaning it looks like horsehair if I were to put horsehair on there. That's what they call synthetic. And that way I'm just lightening that green flash or that horizon is just above the water's edge. Really makes the separation between the sky and the water. And if I wanted to, I could even put a little bit in for a couple of white caps or some waves. So I could just barely put that in there if you want. Yes, I use my fingers sometimes to smudge it in there. There's no water on my brush. I'm what they call dry brushing. Because I still want to see that green behind it. Okay, I now have sky. So now what I'm going to do is move down to the beach area, and I'm just going to kind of rough it up a little bit too. So I'm going to keep with the white because I already have some white on my brush. And I want to have, well, I have blue on my brush. Let's brush that out. My white's contaminated. It's still contaminated. I'm going to get some fresh white. Okay. What I'm going to do is pick up a little bit of white and have either, could be some seaweed, just could be the light glistening on the beach. Just some variety. Just the lightness. Okay. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. Alright, there we go. Now we're ready to work on the foreground. What is the foreground? The foreground is the things in front. And in this case, the tree is in front and my two little rocks, my mama rock and my baby rock. So, and I like to draw things in odd numbers, so I have 1, 2, 3 objects that are now in the foreground. I did this project even on a wine glass. It really came out really fun. So we did all the palm trees around the glass. That's okay, here we go. So we're going to now draw a tree. Well, guess what? We got brown from before. So all I need to do is either make up some new brown if you ran out, like me. So I'm going to put some red on there again, some blue on there again, some yellow on there again, and I'm going to make brown. You might have to keep on adding a little bit of each color till you get it to not be green or not be purple. Right? And now I'm going to add a little white to that. Not too much white. I want a darker tree this time. I put too much white in it that time, so I got to keep on working it. Your watercolor in it, you just get to use the brown out of the can. It will be tough to keep your brown from bleeding into your water in your sky. So make sure when you're watercoloring that you make sure that your brush is very dry and not so much water, because you'll have a big pool. Okay, so I've got a little brown here going, and I'm going to draw my tree. I can't wait to draw my tree. Oh my gosh, it's going to be fun. Okay, so this tree is going to bend with the wind. It's called DV tree, so its trunk is straight or kind of crooked, but the top of it bends with the wind. We're going to draw the trunk first. I like to draw things the way they grow or flow. We flew across the airwaves up in the sky, and now we're going to grow this tree up, and then he's going to bend. So, all right, so we're going to start down here. I think I'll put my tree off center, so he's going to grow that way. So here's my little tree roots. I'm using a synthetic brush, a round synthetic brush, meaning it's round in shape. Okay, and I'm just going to at some point take a little left turn. Yay! I'm going to take a left turn. Okay, now I'm going to pull it past the horizon line before I go do anything else. Don't stop your tree at the horizon line before you do something else. It'll just look awkward. It'll look like you chopped him off at a weird spot, because that's a very defined line right there. Okay, now I'm going to take it and make a Y. I love tree. I think about Y as in the letter Y when I'm drawing trees, or I use the letter Z. I'm doing an evergreen. I make zigzags. So this is going to be a Y tree. So I'm going to make a Y. Oh, there's a Y right there. Might look backwards to you, but that's definitely a Y. And then I'm going to go over here and make another Y. Just like that. And you say, why? No, you don't. I don't know what you're saying. You're like, she's crazy. And now I'm going to make a little Y. Or that looks like more like a V. Yes, and another one. Okay, so this is my tree. Crazy, huh? Doesn't look like much. I didn't go way up here with it. I still want to see those beautiful clouds. So my canopy of green is just going to sit on top of those Ys. Okay, so let's take the brush and just curl it. Now that I've drawn in where it goes, I'm going to curl it. When I say curl it or twirl it, I'm just twirling it with my arm a little bit so that my tree trunks don't look straight. They look kind of bumpy and natural and organic. Because this is kind of a rustic wood. It's like driftwood. It's not very straight like an aspen. Very, very different wood. So I'm just going to take my arm and kind of twist it and turn it. I guess curling's not a great describing word for it, or action for it. But it's making it more twisty tied and more organic. Yeah, there we go. Now, it does not have all the dark in there yet, like the dark side and the light side that I'm so adamant about doing. But we do have that one color done first. We have that brown color done. Like the medium, like the in-between the dark and the light. Okay, now we're going to talk about the canopy itself. So that canopy is going to, just put a few more roots here while I have some brown still on my brush. We're going to make it out of green. And how do you make green? Well, remember back to kindergarten days. You're going to take yellow. I got lots of yellow out. And your blue. And you mix them together. This one's easier than brown. Ta-da! This is going to be my medium green because I'm going to make 2 shades of green. Just like I'm going to have the dark and light of my tree trunk, I'm going to have the dark and light of my canopy. And when I say canopy, it's not really shading much there. It's kind of just some scrub along this beach, but it's still fun to do it. And we're going to just kind of dab at it this time. Instead of drawing and swirling, we're going to actually just kind of dab at it. So this little guy out here is going to get a dab, dab, dab. Ding, 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 ding. Just like that. Yeah. And over here, this one's going to get a little dab, dab, dab. They're kind of bushy. That's what I kind of love about this tree and doing this for an art project. You don't have to think about a big oak or leaping willow. It's really pretty simple. Okay, and then let's do it over here. Let's put a little bit more here. So on each of those little spokes of the Y, that's where I know to put my little canopy. But I might connect this one. Like this one, I might just make one big blob or one big connected canopy here. Yay! And we'll put a little bit down here. Very good. Not too difficult. I'll show it to you up close here. Julia Childs, I'm going to bring you the one up close so you can see it. So this one has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little clumps of greenery. Okay, so while you're working on that, I'm going to have you mix up 2 more greens. So I'll let Rosie speak for just a second, and I'm going to make a dark and a light of this green. So I already have this green, but I'm going to make a dark by adding more blue to one side and more yellow to another side. All right, so Miss Rosie, if you want to speak for a second here.
Yeah, I just want to take this time to let you know that I will be linking some of Deborah's links down in the chat box. They are also on the screen. So she has a Bravo, Venmo, and then I also will link her website. And that's just a donation to her and just appreciation for all the hard work she's doing for us. We really appreciate her. The city really appreciates all of her hard work. She's doing a great job. These classes have been such a success, and everyone has enjoyed them so much. So we're very grateful to have her. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rosie. I appreciate that. I do. I feel very fortunate to be able to do this. It really was kind of a blessing in disguise when this whole pandemic thing came over and all my classes came to a stop, and I had to figure out how I was going to continue to reach you all and retain a lot of my students and just stay fresh on things. So I'm grateful, and I appreciate any of your donations. It won't go unnoticed. I thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you a little, if you didn't do it already, how I made my dark green and my light green. There's my original green from my clump of trees, and now I scooped up some of it, I stuck it over here, and then I scooped up some more blue only, and that's how I got that beautiful dark green. Okay, then I cleaned off my brush. And I'm going to do the same thing for the light green. I'm going to scoop up some green. I scooped up some yellow. Mix those together. And now I have a beautiful, very light green. I might put a little bit more yellow. Okay. So you should have 3 greens. But you didn't have to get out of the can. You made it yourself. I just love that. And you could make this as dark as you want. Even if you could put a little red in there, it would get even a little bit darker. Okay, in fact, I'm going to try that just a little bit there. Yeah. Because then it gets kind of like a foresty green. Yeah, that's really pretty. Okay, so I've got my medium green already on there. Now I'm going to add these other 2 shades. I'm going to go with the dark side first. That's where the sun is not hitting it. So if Mr. Sun is coming straight down on my canopy, which I'm going to pretend it is, just because of the orientation of this painting, I think I prefer the sun looking down on it and making that canopy really feel like it's covering something when it's really not. Maybe a lizard or 2. So I'm going to put the dark color underneath, right along the bottom of my clumps. So they'll feel like they're in shade. It needs to be a little bit darker. I'm just going to add some red to it. Color mixing is definitely a science. So the more you do it, the more you're going to find the colors that you like, or experiment, and you'll realize that you can do more than just make brown. I'm picking on brown tonight because that came up in the last session. Somebody said, what do I do when all I'm making is brown? Let me start over. So we got dark under each of the clumps. And again, I'm just pouncing on it, not brushing back and forth, because I just want these to be a brush of leaves. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush off, and guess what? I'm going to do the same thing on the light side, which would be the side that's closest to Mr. Sun. So I have my light yellowy green. You could add white to it too if you wanted. I'll show you what happens when we add a little bit of white to it. I never squirt out more paint than I need because it dries up so quickly, and you don't want to waste it. It costs a lot of money to go out and buy all your paint, so I just squirt out as much as I need, and I have a record on it, record of what I mixed on the plate. So once this dries, I can try to rematch it or remake it. You could say this. Let's say you didn't get finished tonight. You got to go put the kids to bed. You could stick two together like this and stick them in a gallon Ziploc bag and put it in your fridge for several days, if not the week, unless somebody tries to eat your paint thinking it's a meal. But it's nice that you could conserve this and it'll stay moist in there. If you even just need to use a squirt bottle and activate it a little bit, it'll extend the life of the paint. Okay, I'm going to put the light cut. Look at that. See how much lighter it is? I'm not going to do as much as I did on the underneath tree. I'm just going to put a little bit of these the light clumps ever so often. Just a little bit. Yay! Now I have a DVD tree that's got a canopy that's shading not very much, but it's there. Okay, now you're thinking, what is she going to do next, right? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to make those two rocks, the mama rock and the baby rock. And so we're going to use that same brown that we used on the tree. Yes, I know we haven't finished the tree trunk yet, but we're getting to that. We need to make the rock first, because some of the colors we're going to use on the rock are also going to be on the tree trunk. So I want us to go over here and draw our rocks. How do you draw a rock? Well, rocks are organic, it's just like trees. You can't mess up on a rock. I know you're like, yeah, I could. Well, there's so many different formations of rocks. Some could have been washed ashore. They've had like the waves pounding on them, and now they're just a big smooth rock. Some could be rugged because it's like a boulder that fell down. So you can't go wrong with a rock. So just think of it like a mushed marshmallow. All right, so I'm going to draw a marshmallow here that fell down or got put between two crackers to make a s'more. So I now have a rock that I just quickly drew. It looks like a melting Hershey's Kiss or something there. Okay, and now I'm going to fill it in a little bit. I'm going to extend my paint because my brown's drying out by putting my brush in the water. If you're doing this in watercolor, you shouldn't have any problem with this one, because it's okay if your brown is picking up some of the other colors with watercolor. Okay, let's do the little baby rock. Thinking of that song, Baby Shark. I'm not going to get it out of my head. Okay, so the little rock. Do you see how I'm breaking the line of the beach to the water? I went above it. Don't stop. Don't put the top of your rock stopping at the point where your water meets the beach. It'll just look weird. It's just like this one. We had to go above the line. So even with baby rock is going to break the plane by just a little bit. And your rock could be round. It doesn't have to be like a sandwich piece of toast. It can be more round, however you want that to look. Now it just looks like a brown blob. Yes, just a brown blob. So I'm going to now give him a light and a dark side. So I'm going to put a little white on my brush. I'm just putting a little bit of white on there. And I am going to paint the top of the rock like the light's hitting it. Because the rock is still wet, it's picking up the paint underneath it and really just does a nice job color mixing. It's called wet on wet when you paint on something that's already wet. I'll put a little bit on the baby rock. And it's giving me a nice tan color, beige color, because it's mixing with the wet brown already. Yay! Voila. I like that. Okay, now let's take some of that same white and mix it with your brown that you made, because your tree trunk is already dry. So you're not going to get a wet on wet, which I don't want you to have a wet on wet over there. I want you to have a definite new color, a new light brown to put onto that rustic tree trunk. We want to make him look weathered and strong and not like our rock that might be a little bit more smooth. Okay, remember how we twirled our brush as we were making the rugged wood? You're going to do the same thing. I'm going to twirl it. I know you're like, what? These are not things that you're used to doing. You're not used to dragging your brush and twirling it at the same time. But look what it's doing. It's really giving me some great highlights. Really nice highlights. I'll this up and show you a little closer. There it goes, so you can see closely, just by twisting it, what I'm getting. Okay, so I'm going to keep going with that. You could even put the twisty part motion on top of the tree limb rather than on the bottom of the tree limb because it would be closer to the sky, right? It would be closer. And this one is going to be up on the top of this one. It wouldn't be right under the canopy because the sun's not hitting that part. So I'm not going to put white right under the dark part of the canopy. I can put it here, a little down there. Yay! I may put a big knot right there. Okay, put just some bright white now that my rock is dry. A little more white on top of my rocks. Oh my gosh, so it's really, really coming together. Now, what we need to do is that dark, dark brown that we were originally making. So I'm going to suggest that you use red and blue. That's going to make that purple. So we're not going to get black out. If you're half black, I mean, obviously you can use black to shade something and make it look darker. I just stay away from black. When I'm teaching art, too many people put too much black into their color mixing if they don't know what they're doing, and black covers everything. It's like it's opaque. So I'm going to make up a pretty purple first with my blue and red. Almost like an eggplant color here. Add just a tad of yellow. Oh, put too much yellow, it's turning green. See? Just kind of be patient till you get the right color. I'm trying to get it as dark as I had before. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Okay, so this is going to be my dark side of my tree trunk. So where the sun is not hitting it, I'm going to have a little bit darker. And I'm still twirling my brush. Maybe down here in the roots, it's connecting to the shoreline there. Maybe a little bit up under here. Not a whole lot. You don't want to cover up everything. You want to be able to see at least three, your light, your medium, and dark. Now I can take a little bit more of that dark brown and make a couple of little twists across the bark in a horizontal fashion, as if the driftwood is twisting like a rope, like a rope. That's fun. Oh, I can't wait to see what all you all are creating. And I will pick this up and bring it closer to you so you can see my little twists. Oh, I bet y'all have some awesome beach scenes by now. Now, the last thing we want to do is take that same dark brown and kind of make a few shadows underneath our rocks. You ready to do that? So remember, the sun's coming down, so those shadows are going to be on the dark side underneath this beautiful rock. I'm going to wet my brush just a tad because it's getting a little dry. And I'm just putting a little bit of where the sun doesn't shine, right here. Okay, I can put some seaweed. Oh, I'm going to twirl my brush. Y'all get good at twirling, so you can just put a few little dabs of seaweed in the sand. You could even use some of your burgundy that you might have on there from making a little purple. Ta-da! Okay, this is where I like to just dirty up the beach. Just add those little dibbles and dabs that really bring it all together. You could even have just some blue dibbles and dabs, maybe right there along the beach edge. Maybe something washed ashore. Maybe some of that seaweed just starts flowing in there. You know, less is more, so don't overdo the seaweed. I mean, if you have a few little scraggles here and there, I guess you can't overdo seaweed. I guess it's really good for you. I'm the doctor, I don't. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more white back in there. Oh my gosh, it's going to look so awesome. You guys are doing great. I think, remember I said I want to go back now to the sky, and maybe I want to pop a little bit more light into my sky now that I've got my canopy in place. So I'm just going to pop this. Oops, I've got brown on my canvas, on my brush. If you by accident do that, you can quickly get it off with a wet paper towel before it dries. Let me clean my brush really well. When you clean your brush, just swirl it around inside the water. You know, I use a blue cup so I don't mix it up with my nice margarita cup. And stick my brush into the water, swirl it around. Do not squeeze the horse or the hog. Don't squeeze it like this. Just brush it back and forth until it becomes clean on the napkin. That way the hair will stay inside that metal. The hair is just glued inside the metal, so you don't want to be squeezing on it. Yeah, pigs don't like to be squeezed. Okay, ready? So I was going to work on this cloud up here. He just needs a little bit more fluffing now that he's got a canopy that's right in front of him. You know, this is where you just move around the canvas and start to kind of tidy everything together. I just didn't know where my canopies were going to stop and start when I was putting the clouds in. So now it's almost like they're mimicking each other. Maybe I just need a really bright line here. You know, that just really kind of settles my eye. Maybe I've got a couple of waves just right in there. I was watching Soul Surfer with my daughter last night, just thinking about all those beautiful waves in Hawaii. Okay, maybe I just need a few of those tiny little white dots even in my clump of trees because, you know, they're not so dense. The vegetation is not dense, so you're going to be seeing some of that cloud coming through. I've got a bunch of dry spots over here, so I'm just going to fill those in too a little bit more. Yes, I'm using my fingers. Sometimes I do that. If you want this painting to look shiny, after it's all dry, you can add a gloss medium and it'll look like an oil painting at the end. Just make sure that your painting's all dry, including your name, before you put a Gloss. You can do gloss, semi-gloss, matte, if you want it to all go matte. Because what if you were using some craft paint on this and some house paint and your fine art paint, and they all have different sheens? Well, if you want to use the medium on there, that's going to make it all one sheen, so it actually looks good. It just kind of ties it all together. It goes on milky white, but it dries clear. It's very beautiful. And when you put that on, you go in one direction. Don't keep pushing it off again. Let it dry in one. Just make your brush strokes across the canvas in one direction. Let it dry. Put 2 coats on. That's what I recommend. And it'll be shiny and pretty. I like shine, so I always make mine shine. Like right now, it looks very flat. So then I put that sheen on there. And these show up better on camera when I'm teaching without the glare on them. So these do not have the sheen on them yet for the purposes of teaching this class. Okay, the only thing left to do is to sign my name. So if I were to pick this one up, do you see how I hid my name in the bottom corner? Here it is, right here. I love that I could put my name in there. It kind of looks like seaweed, right? It's just kind of floating in there. Do not put your name way down here on the edge that if you frame this, nobody's going to see it. It needs to be in the painting, but it needs to not be the painting. So if your name is Abracadabra, don't write that really big across the bottom of your paper. If you have a really long name, maybe you just put your initials or something, because the painting is not about your name, but who did it is just as important as what you're painting. And so it's really important that you do sign your work. I sign mine with a little G for Goalie. And I'm going to use red because I have a lot of red left over. I've squirted way too much red on my plate. Plus, it's going to show up a little bit better against that yellow. So I'm going to use my smaller brush, and I'm going to choke up on the brush. Typically, when I paint, I'm way back here. But for those tiny little details like eyeballs and names, we're going to choke up on it. So we're holding it down here at the neck. And I need a little bit of water on it because it's a little too dry to do a fine point. G-O-L. Oh, that was a big one. But remember, if you don't like something, you just dip it in a little bit of water, tissue, and you can get rid of it before it dries. Just like that. Just like that. Okay, so that brings us to the point where I'm going to hopefully get to see some of your actual work if you want to show me. Oh, I already see one. Mary, that is beautiful. Love that. Oh my gosh, these are so beautiful. So you're welcome to show me. I also want to talk about next week's class. If you're going to take it with me at the 12:30 Mountain Standard Time, which is here in Arizona, we're going to actually do an Asian theme. And if you've got those watercolors or just Crayola markers, these will work. I'm so excited to show you my little tricks. Oh my gosh, Kendra, that looks beautiful. Oh, and Patricia, that looks amazing. She's got some waves going in hers. I mean, it's definitely a soul surfer beach. Oh, and look at Janice's. Carla, I love the yellow in your beach. It's like golden. It's like golden. And Sonia's, I like how it's it's kind of asymmetrical. It's off to the corner. Oh, I love them. They're so beautiful. And Erica, look at yours. I can definitely see the difference between sky and water. Like you guys did a really good job of mixing that little change in the water. Not water, well, it is a change in temperature, right? It's a change in color value and hue. Look at Christie's. Oh, I love seeing these. Oh my gosh, if you guys could see the whole shebang, you'd be so impressed. They're so nice. I love them. Does anybody have any questions for me at all? Any questions at all? Here's a peacock. So those of you who want to join me on Saturday the 30th, woo, I took this picture at the Wildlife Zoo, and we're going to paint it. You could do it in watercolor, the little guys, little friends of ours in your pajamas. You can do that, or you can be in acrylic paint and do it. It's going to be fun. So watercolor, pastels, acrylics, whatever you have, I'm going to walk you through how to do a peacock. That's going to be fun on the 30th at 9 a.m. The Asian-inspired, where we're going to be using watercolor, Crayola marker, some black paint, will be at 12:30 on Wednesday, next Wednesday the 27th. So, any questions for me? We have we got 5 more minutes to chit-chat. So, you should be finishing up this. Maybe you're still working on your rocks, your shadows, your seaweed. Any questions for me?
I'll go ahead and unmute
Oh
everyone.
my gosh, those are so beautiful. I can't see everybody, so I can just see a handful of people. Rosie, do you want to turn